Lights out, we're underway. Motorsport Republica Podcast.
All right, a very, very special episode we've got this evening, James. Well, it's morning over in England, but we want to welcome Joe Achilles, YouTube star, on the podcast for the first time. Joe, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. I know you're a busy, busy man, but you're a big MotoGP fan, and that's why you're here.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. I really appreciate the invite. It's awesome being on, and I'm a big fan of your work.
Appreciate it, mate. We're a big fan. You're actually one of our OG fans, I reckon. Back in the day, I remember seeing your name, and it's great to finally connect and talk GP. And a massive MotoGP season is coming up, that's for sure.
Sure is. Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna get right into that. But I can't wait to talk about it. I struggle. I talked to you guys last week off camera, and I'm a petrol head at heart, whether it's 4 wheels or 2 wheels, and I've got lots of 4-wheel friends. But talking bikes is harder. I don't have that many people to talk bikes with. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this chat.
That's interesting. What is the bike scene and like compared to obviously F1 is huge in England, but what's it like? Is it growing MotoGP over in the UK, or is it on steady? Is it a decline?
It's hard to say. I don't think it seems quite steady. I've been watching MotoGP since probably the mid '90s. Before you guys are probably, when were you two born?
94.
95.
Well, there you go. Yeah, since you two popped out, I've been watching MotoGP, and I've been going to live races since 2010, actually Silverstone, which I'm 5 minutes away from. But in terms of like attendance numbers, it doesn't seem to be growing over here. Like Silverstone really struggles, which is a shame. But they don't seem to be doing too much about it to make that any better. But so
it's interesting.
Fingers crossed that it gets bigger.
Yeah, we're getting a similar sort of case here down under, where F1 is just exploded. And we talked to the organisers of the Formula One and the MotoGP. It's one big corporation here, and like I think they just really think that MotoGP is just a cherry on top, but it's F1 where all the money's made. And we're experiencing that at the moment with Phillip Island. There's talks of it disappearing off the calendar and out of our country altogether, which is pretty devastating. But yeah, it's a funny old sport. We think it's about to bubble at the surface and boom, as Formula One has. Obviously, Living Media taking over. What do you see the future of it in the next sort of 5 years, do you think?
Well, yeah, I really hope that Liberty Media do make it more popular and they sort of reach the wider audience. I think there's no denying that Drive to Survive did completely transform Formula One. I've heard both of you talking about, family members, young girls and boys suddenly being interested in F1 that just weren't before. And I think that's what MotoGP need is something like that, because let's face it, I mean, every MotoGP rider on the grid, they're all gladiators, aren't they? And they've all got amazing stories behind them, and what they do, and the sport itself is just so good. But it's just getting people hooked and getting people to understand how amazing it is, and how turbulent it can be as well. It's really, really cool. It's not always okay. It is about the bike. Yes, the Ducati's been pretty dominant, but it just shows, this. Let's see what happens this year. I think a lot of the other manufacturers are catching up, and then obviously into 2027, big rule change. We don't know what's going to happen there. It could be anyone. Maybe aside from Yamaha, but anyway.
Yamaha it's struggling so bad. But going back to like the UK, it's interesting because Formula One is just like gangbusters over there. And obviously it's been huge for a long time, but is there any reason why you think MotoGP has maybe been on the decline or just not getting the numbers there? Like obviously Silverstone's got the facilities and everything like that as well. Is it just as simple as having a Netflix show?
I think that's a part of it, but I there's actually a video I filmed that I haven't published on my motorcycle channel. I filmed on the Wednesday before the MotoGP at Silverstone, which like literally when there's bikes or cars on the circuit, I can hear it from my garden, so I'm that close. And I went out on a press bike at the time, and I spent an hour on the bike, and my mission was to go and find something somewhere telling me that the MotoGP was on, right? And I went all the way to the circuit, to the main gates, where there was a thing, a sort of at the entrance, obviously saying MotoGP was on. That's where I started. And then I rode around, and there's lots of big towns. And in fact, there's Milton Keynes, which is where like places like Red Bull are based, which is a big, newish city in the UK. But there's millions of people there. I couldn't find anything anywhere within 20 square miles of Silverstone that told me that the MotoGP was basically happening in 2 days' time. And I know that's old school in a way. Like it's it's like, oh well, now it's all online. But in another way, I worked out there's probably about 6 to 8 million people within that vicinity of Silverstone, including probably tens or hundreds of schools. But I bet that 99% of that population don't know that there's a world-class MotoGP round just about to start. So I really think that they just don't promote it well enough. There's nothing telling people within the area. There's all these empty seats and there's all these schools. And in my head, I'm like, why have the promoters not approached these local schools at least and got them down, with their parents and got the youngsters into it? At least, some of them are going to walk away and say, oh, it's not for me. But I know that a big proportion of those are going to walk away and go, oh, wow, I want to go back and watch MotoGP again, or when's it going to be on the TV? And I think that's where we're really lacking in the UK. It's all about, just making a quick buck. And then to me, it looks like the focus just goes straight away onto F1, and it just kind of gets overlooked. I think it's such a secondary. Well, it's not even a secondary sport in the UK. I think it's below things like touring cars and that sort of thing. And yeah, I think people need to work harder and promote it more, get it out to the wider audience.
That's very fascinating. Is it like in Australia where there's AusGP, so they look after Formula One and MotoGP? Is it similar in the UK?
Yeah, well, I believe, so I believe it's Silverstone that and their promoters that sort of run both events. And they're renowned for sometimes being a little bit greedy and unaware of sort of what's going on. Because up until recent years, even the F1 did struggle at Silverstone. They got extremely selfish, and I can't remember what the tickets were, but they were just unaffordable for most people. But saying that, the MotoGP, it's not even that. Again, I talked about this in the video that I've not published, but the ticket, I think I looked and it was like 120 quid, 120 pounds. So what's that? $200 ish for a 3-day weekend ticket, which I think is really good value, like for an adult. And I think children were like 50 or 60 quid. So it's not even like it's an expensive thing, like you could pay that to go and do crazy golf, for a day. Or it's not that they price themselves out of the market. I really think it's just down to getting eyes on the sport and getting the younger generation to realize that there's this awesome sport. All they know about is F1 and four-wheeled stuff. And I think it's just getting it under the nose of this sort of younger audience is what's missing at the moment.
Yeah, when similar down here, it's like you don't want to. We always joke it's the old farts sitting on their lounge chairs with a beer in their hand. You don't want to piss off that audience, but you need the young people to come in. So it's a real combination of both. So yeah, it's interesting. I think very similar situation in Australia and the UK with our motorsport. Your local bike league like BSB is something that I think Australia envies. I mean, the Aussie Superbikes, it's without sounding off the record, but it's dying in its ass, really, in this country. Yep. So, but BSB is something that's been, around a long time and very popular.
Yeah, it is, and the level in BSB is really good, as you know. Like the amount of top British riders that have come through British Superbike and gone into at least World Superbike, and then occasionally like Cal Crutchlow going into MotoGP and stuff. And it's a really good atmosphere. I actually went to Donington. Well, this is a World Superbike last year, but it was a similar feeling. I went to Donington last year, and it was awesome. And actually at Donington there was a range of ages, men and women. It was a real family feeling atmosphere. There was a lot more access, and I get that. At MotoGP, it's harder to do that because it's a higher tier sport, and the likes of Marc Márquez probably don't want 50,000 people in the paddock, but it was a really good feeling, and there was always something going on. I think that's also maybe what lacks a little bit. The last time I went to Phillip Island actually in 2023, the year that they rained. It was rained off or stormed off.
Oh, you were down here for that? No way.
It was kind of part of my. I went over to Oz for a month, mostly with BMW Australia actually, and mostly filming car stuff. But I borrowed a couple of bikes and I timed it so that I was there. I think I landed on like the Friday. I literally landed on a Friday, drove down to Phillip Island with my brother, stayed on a friend's couch in Phillip Island in this old shack, which was just perfect because it was like a 5-minute bus ride away from the circuit. But even there, I mean, there's a lot of dead time. They need to, I think, because the F1 is like on a race day, at least it's 2 hours of racing and everything else. And I don't want the MotoGP racing to be longer. And if it does become longer, then they need to refuel and whatever. There's all those complications. But I think and we obviously got Moto2 and Moto3, but there's also still a lot of, at least at Silverstone, there's a lot of dead time. And I think there needs to be more effort put into the actual stuff that's going on around the racing, because otherwise you just sit there, you can't wait for the race and then it's over and then you're off and the whole day seems quite quick, especially when you're super fans like we all are. But yeah, I don't know. There's probably no single thing, but I think it could only go one way. It can only grow. We've obviously been through COVID. We've lost Valentino Rossi, which obviously was a huge pull. But I think promoters and the general sort of media blaming it on the likes of Rossi leaving now, I don't think that should be a thing. That's something of the past. There's so many characters and so much going on in MotoGP. I mean, look what Marc Márquez has done. He's just, he's an enigma. I think there's so many characters and personalities within the sport that there's so much room to grow, in my opinion.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think now that's like everyone's moved on. Like obviously all the greats retire, and Valentino's obviously one of them. But there's as you said, there's Marc Márquez, Marco Bezzecchi. He's now got super fans. Like he's the next big Italian star.
Costa,
exactly, coming through. Like as Tom said, it's all bubbling at the surface. You don't if that's not an excuse. And like even I was watching today. The Malaysian MotoGP opening ceremony thing that they were riding through the streets, doing all that. Like there's heaps of fans there. Like even then they're trying to promote it a little differently. Like they never did that 10 years ago. So they are really working at it. And it's only a matter of time, really. It looks a lot different. MotoGP looks a lot different from 2015 to 2026, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And I think it is country specific as well, because you say Malaysia. I know you guys have been out to Thailand and stuff. You're going again this year, right?
No, we're not. You're not.
You're not. Okay.
We're tied down this year, unfortunately. So I actually, I didn't tell you this, but I emailed the accommodation we stayed at last year just to see if there was I had a couple of drinks on Saturday night. You G yourself up a bit. And I drug text the hotel in Thailand to see that a room available. They didn't reply. Yeah, they didn't reply. I would go on a heartbeat, but the accommodation there, I don't know if you've been, Joe, but no, it is some of the worst in the world, I think, as in if you're going to go stay there. And we fucking lucked it. We were like on the track. We were like a cow's paddock away from the track.
Yeah, you could kick a football.
Yeah, and like we didn't realize, because it was our first overseas race at the time, we didn't realize how good this was. Then we went to Malaysia last year, and look, Sepang is not much of a place to stay, but we stayed in Kuala Lumpur, about an hour away. But that hour drive home from the track is like the hour when the session finishes or the race finishes. That's the hour you just want to, you're up and about, you want a few drinks, you want to jump in the pool, whatever. once you get home after an hour in the car, you're like, fuck it, let's go to sleep. I've been in 40-degree heat all day. So accommodation is key. 5 minutes from the track, Phillip Island, like you had in your mate's couch, that's perfect. I'd rather that all day of the week than drive an hour in a 5-star hotel.
Motorheaven.com.au, Tom Shavy, like family owned, #1 online motorcycle accessories retailer in the country.
James, you got a family-owned business.
Yep.
You got the cheapest prices.
Yep.
And free shipping over $150. What else do you actually want?
There's actually nothing else you can want. The biggest brands, they are #1. We love them. OGs of the pod, motorheaven.com.au. Check them out.
When we were in Sepang, they had the Asia Summit. So, like, all the big head honchos of the countries, like Trump and...
Yeah, they're all there.
They're all there.
Yeah.
So, like, the whole city was shut down. So, other than that.
You got any plans for any races this year?
Well, definitely Silverstone because it's local, and I'm a brand ambassador for Michelin UK, so I'm very lucky that I get to go to a couple of races in the year usually. But I really want to try and get to Valencia again this year. Are you guys off to Valencia?
We are.
Maybe.
We've got a little bit of an inside story on that one for you, because we partnered up with a gentleman named Connor McKenzie. And he's this is a bit of a lame plug here, but we're starting out a hospitality with MLAV Racing. And he rang us the other day. He goes, "Oh, you're having Joe Achilles on the pod." Funnily enough, he told this crazy story that he met you. I think it was Jerez, possibly. And he was lining up that you guys were going to go through the Yamaha.
VR46.
Well, the VR46. And he said it was funny because we connected the dots and how small the world is sometimes. You know, it's amazing.
It is. I met him and his wife at Silverstone last year. We're all on the balcony.
Yes.
And the hospitality, whatever it's called, VIP, but it's actually quite rubbish at Silverstone because you literally could see the start-finish straight, but you're on the inside of start-finish straight, so you see about 5 seconds of a bike if you're lucky.
Yeah.
But I'm out there on the balcony, and James from Michelin UK came out and said, "Oh, we're off to go and do a garage tour." And Connor, typical Aussie, like I hadn't even spoke to him, but it was just, and I loved his humour because I'm half Australian, right? My mum's from Melbourne.
Oh,
so,
wow! There you go.
Yeah, he literally turned around. So James said, "All right, we're heading off to the hospitality suite, or we're heading down to CVR 46." And Connor turned around and said, "Yep, I'll come." And then James, who runs sort of social media and Michelin, was like, "Yeah, no worries." And then he wandered off. And then suddenly I was like, Connor looked at me, he's like, "Was he serious?" And I was like, "I'll just go and check." And I went and asked James, he said, "Oh no, I was joking." I was like, "Oh mate," the guy, I made him feel really guilty because I was like, "Oh,
legend."
Like, those guys have come all the way from Australia. And you just said, anyway, so James got in a panic because he's so professional. And he's like, oh, just leave it with me. And he runs off, he comes back and he's like, "I've managed to get a couple of extra passes." So then we invited Connor and his wife down, and yeah, it was great, and they're really nice. And I think they're at the start of their sort of 3 or 4 MotoGP round tour. And and when he emailed me or messaged me about a month ago about his new venture, it was great because I'd already heard it. I said, "Oh, I've just heard you guys talking about
that
it."
made us look pretty good.
Yeah. Mate. You guys do, like I said, a brilliant job.
We'll have to plan something for Valencia because obviously Connor's going to be there. We're going to be there. It's something I'm looking forward to. And look, I'm thinking we're going to be at the race, and then the test is probably the more thing I'm excited about because the test is going to be the new 27 bikes. 2 days after the race. I mean, that's something that is going to be super special to be at because it's a new generation, and I don't know,
whole brand new bikes, brand new.
I know.
It's like we kind of say it's the biggest technical change since 2-stroke to 4-stroke.
And Acosta might be on a Ducati. Who knows where everyone's going? It's going to be the silly seasons this year. So
it's going to be brilliant. I mean, I've been going to Valencia. I've probably been there 4 or 5 times over the years, and every time I get back or I'm on my way back, and then I'll start looking at test results, and I'm like, what? Why didn't I stay for a couple of days and watch it? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, what's wrong with me? Every time I do it to myself. So this year, same thinking. It's like, yeah, the race, great, but stay back, and also hotels are available because it's not like it's, it's really difficult to stay there for those couple of days. extend the summer before I get back to the misery of the UK. By the way, on the off topic, because I'm half English and I can speak about the weather, I heard on the news yesterday, we've had rain every single day since the 1st of January. So, yeah, I hope you have some sympathy for us. Every single day.
Wow. I think it's rained. I would say it's rained once since the 1st of January.
Yeah, if we're lucky.
And that's and we're talking about Melbourne, also one of the most unpredictable weather places in the world.
Yes,
so yeah, it's amazing. Silverstone, only 5 minutes from Silverstone. That must be a trip. That's it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so you guys, honestly, I'm not just saying this because I'm on the pod, but if you're ever over here, and I hope you do make Silverstone, you've got a bedroom each, or you can share. I don't know sort of how you guys do this, but
I'll get the contract over.
But yeah, you're welcome.
Maybe we'll quickly fly over this year. I'll take it.
Absolutely.
What got you into MotoGP, Joe?
Absolutely. To be honest, I was trying to think about this over the weekend, knowing that I was talking to you guys, and I honestly can't remember. I've always been into two wheels. So I raced mountain bikes when I was younger for years, and I actually moved to Australia in '99 and lived there for 4 years. Raced downhill mountain bikes and rode with a lot of the top Australians at the time. And so I've always been into two wheel. I used to watch a lot of motocross, supercross back then, and MotoGP and things like that. I just loved. I think because I was a two-wheel guy as well as a four-wheel guy back then, albeit something without an engine, I used to just admire and appreciate what these guys could do on motorbikes. And then it just became a bit of an obsession. And although I've watched F1 from afar, and I can, if F1's on the TV, I don't pay £100 a month for Sky to watch F1 because I'm not that big of a super fan for F1. And I think when I was younger, although I admired someone like Schumacher, it was a lot of Schumacher years, and it all came down to the car really. And I just love the bikes. They've always been close. They've always been big battles and rivalry. And so, I've just loved bikes for whatever reason. And when I was really young, my old man, I grew up in central London, and my old man was always against the idea of me getting a motorbike license, which looking back on it was a good thing because, I used to break a lot of bones on the bicycle. I used to drive a little bit recklessly when I was younger. And I think it would have only ended in tears if I had a sports bike or something in the UK. And so in 2022, I finally went and got my bike license, which feels weird, well into my 40s. But now I can have fun on them, but also I there's a level of respect for the bike and the fact that I'm not, I'm a novice still, and I love the bike, so I can appreciate the two wheels. But in terms of watching it, I don't know. I just think to me, it's just clearly the best motorsport, in the world. And I've seen that through my eyes over the years. And also when I was younger, one of my best mates was heavily into MotoGP. So I'd be at his house or he'd be at mine, and we'd just watch it religiously. Didn't matter where it was in the world. If it was in Australia, we'd be up at the crack of dawn watching it. And I don't know. I've just got it in my blood, and that has not died away. And my lovely wife, Lou, she used to watch the bikes. She works for Audi UK, so she actually used to do a few things with Ducati when they sort of merged and got involved. But now she's heavily into it as well. So she'll come to Silverstone with us every year, and it's great. Yeah, we sit down. It's a proper MotoGP weekend. Make sure we're home on Sunday at least to watch it, and I just love it. Yeah,
I love it. That's really well said. I love to hear it, and I love to hear just how passionate you are. And going through the years, who's been your stand? Have you always been passionate about one rider? Have you been a Rossi Nuffy? Did you love doing? Were you horribly heartbroken by the British riders like the Toslins or the Bradley Smiths? Who's been your people?
I think Doohan, when I started watching back in the day, Doohan was always sort of up there. And actually, when I came to Australia, maybe 10 years ago or something for Bathurst race, I bumped in and met Mick, and it was great to meet such a legend, and he was so nice and so chilled. But But obviously, he was nothing like that when he was on the bike back in the day. You know, he was vicious. But then I think the predominant years that sort of stand out for me were the Rossi years. And it's weird because I was a massive Rossi fan, as I know 80 or 90% of the audience was back then. But in recent years, I've become less and less and less of a Rossi fan. And I know it's not that he's not on the bike anymore. It's the whole, it's the him and Marquez thing. I just find it very childish that he still holds such a grudge, and there's still this animosity between them that's so strong. And that kind of upsets me a bit, because it's like, just put that behind you now. Like, look at Stoner and Rossi, you know, like when I was in Valencia a couple of years ago, I saw them like hugging, and, you know, and you could see that there was a mutual respect between them now, and they've sort of put everything in the past, you know, what was in the past. So I guess it's a shame, because it kind of taints all those years of supporting Rossi, especially when he was against Marquez. I was blinded to everything. It was like, no, Rossi. And now I look back on it and I see what Marquez has done. And I think today it's difficult, because like I think I love the sport so much that I've got respect and time for the majority of riders out there. You know, like, I'm happy for pretty much anyone to win. And I know that sounds weird, because most people will have like a standout rider. And yeah, it'd be great if we had a Brit in the current lineup. And Crutchlow, I think when you look back at what Crutchlow did on that Honda, which now we all know was, you know, stupidly difficult to ride. And really, he was like the standout, you know, okay, aside from Pedrosa, he was such a standout rider on a satellite team, and he did so well with what he had. And at the time, I don't think, again, we sort of fully appreciated what Cal did.
He always performed really well down here as well.
Yeah, he always did
well in Australia.
Yeah, he did, and he's just great. And I guess a bit like he reminded me a bit of Stoner on camera. And I think he never came across as like, he was always quite short and didn't say too many things, said what he thought, which it should be cool. But I think at the time it was a bit like, oh, Cal doesn't seem that friendly or whatever. But he just wanted to crack on and race, just like Stoner. Like, you know, Stoner was there for one thing. He didn't like all the surrounding BS that came with it and all the media. He just wanted to race. And again, looking back on that, it's like, wow. At the time, I used to look at Stoner and think, you know, your riding ability and your skill was just unreal. But as a person, I was like, I'm not sure if I like you. But actually, I was just too blinkered, I think, at the time. And Rossi it was all about Rossi. I was just admiring Rossi too much. But yeah, then there's guys that, you know, I think Jorge Martin hasn't done himself any favors recently. I think, you know, I can't imagine he's got the biggest fan club in the world. And as you say, people like Bez, I've been lucky to meet Bez a couple of times, once at Phillip Island, and he's just such a nice guy. And he also, Bez has always reminded me, okay, he's got shorter hair now, but when he sort of came on the MotoGP scene, came through the ranks, his long hair, he always reminded me of Marco Simoncelli. And Simoncelli was someone that I absolutely just loved, you know. He just put a smile on my face every time I saw him. And I think Bez just reminds me a lot of Simoncelli. So it's great to see, great to see sort of a second Simoncelli doing so well, as it were. Such a legend.
Such a legend, yeah. It's good. Going back to like Rossi, and it's funny being blinded by Rossi, it just shows how big he was in the sport, how much he transcended the sport, because like he was the show for so many years, and like there was obviously the aliens and everything like that with Stoner, like Lorenzo, Pedrosa, but Valentino Rossi, like,
well, he was bigger than the sport. Like people would know who Rossi is and what MotoGP was. You know, that's he was like, he was the main brand, wasn't he? So it's incredible. Just back to your point as well with personalities when you meet them. I mean, I found that with Jake Dixon, where I had this persona of him going, God, who is this guy? You know, he's such an arrogant, short guy on the, not short, but, you know, short with the media. Meeting him, the loveliest guy, one of the loveliest guys in the paddock. It's interesting when you're in the inner sanctum a little bit, you meet these real personalities, and you just feel like, why don't you let this shine in the media? Because you could be so much better. So.
Yeah, I think it's hard for them, isn't it? Because they're getting cameras shoved in their faces at the wrong time. I think I think a standout incident that didn't do Jake any favors in terms of media training was that Darren Binder incident a couple of years ago, where he got really angry with Darren. Or as you would. The thing is, like, you know, back in the day, there was probably less cameras. There was no social media. Now, I think he just had, you know, Darren had just taken him out. And at that time, Darren was taking a lot of people out. And literally moments later, Jake's got cameras shoved in his face and microphones and stuff. Of course, he's going to... It's a bit like F1, you know, when they're listening to everything they say out on the circuit. Of course, they're going to swear. Of course, they're going to say bad things about people that are their mates out of the car. Of course they are. Like, if they didn't, they're never going to get to where they are. Like, you know, we're all human beings, you know, like we all say things we maybe don't mean at the time. But when you're battling away with someone on track, or you've just been taken out, of course you're going to be super angry at that moment in time. So yeah, it's I think when you stop and reflect and think about certain things, it's like, actually, of course he would say that. He was angry, and if he wasn't angry, there'd be something wrong with him. Like, you know, of course you're going to say things like that. So, but yeah, Jake's, I've met him once, and I think what him and his wife Sarah, and I just love that whole sort of unit, and I really hope that he does well in World Superbikes. You know, and because I know he had that taster of MotoGP. In fact, at Silverstone, 3 years ago maybe, when he got the wild card, or the ride on Yamaha, thrown in at the deep end. But it would be hard, wouldn't it? Imagine sort of tasting it for 1 or was it 2 weekends, and then not getting that opportunity. But yeah, fair play. I wish him all the best in World Supers.
Yeah, for sure. And like, it's, as you said, like getting a taste and then not being able to obviously go through with it. It just shows how competitive MotoGP is now. Like, you look back to early 4-stroke eras, or, you know, obviously the CRT days, you know, it was such a loose field, but MotoGP now is so competitive. You know, Tom always says, like, someone has to finish 12th, 13th, 14th, even if you are fast. Someone like Raul Fernandez can now win. Like, there is, if you can't have an off day. Like, if you want to win a world championship, you can't have an off day, especially going up against the might of Marc Márquez on one of those red Ducatis.
Yeah, it's true. And I think it does, like, Raul's a brilliant example in the sense that he something clicked at the end of last year. He showed some brilliance, and then the very next round, so it was Phillip Island, wasn't it? And then he was up there for the remaining couple of races. And it just shows, it's just that, I mean, they're all so close on paper, as we know. And it just shows it's that extra, you know, 10th or 2. And when they find it and they got that confidence, it just changes everything. And I think a lot of it, you know, is down to rider confidence. Look at Pecco last year. I mean, who knows what was going on? You know, again, I'm a massive Pecco fan. I think he's such a lovely guy, so down to earth. And I think last year it was quite demoralizing to watch it all happen, race after race, and it was so predictable. You know, it's like, oh, free practice 1, he's not looking too bad, and then he just drops off, and it's like, and I know that the bike, maybe it didn't suit him, but he said to the media again that it wasn't him in his head, it was the bike or what. But I'm sure it was. I think he just hit it quite well. It would be hard to suddenly have Marc Márquez as your teammate, and again, going back to what Cal used to say, look at Marc's data. You know, you're on your factory Ducati rider. You've been on the team for years, and suddenly you're looking at this data that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, and you just can't get your head around it. And I'm sure that had a massive part to play. But I really hope that this year he comes back and focuses more on himself and doing well. Because it would be sad if he is what the rumors are saying, if he's lost his spot. Excuse me. But at the same time, like he said in a recent interview, it's like, it is, you know, it's a business. And after last year's results, it wasn't 1 or 2 bad races. It was pretty much an entire year of shocking results. So yeah, it'd be great in a way. It would be great to see him with Bez in Aprilia, because I think that would be a fantastic all-Italian lineup. And I think, yeah, well, let's see what happens. Maybe you guys know some inside knowledge.
No, we don't. We're hearing all sorts of things. We're hearing VR46, we're hearing Aprilia, but it looks like he's staying in some sort of Italian outfit, that's for sure. But in all your years of watching motorsport, have you ever seen someone so inconsistent like that? Like the guy can go and win in Motegi and then finish behind a test rider in the next race. I mean, I've never seen anything like that before.
It was puzzling, wasn't it? I mean, Motegi, I genuinely thought, oh my God, he's back. Thank goodness. Like he's found something. Ducati someone's found something. He's back. And then he just wasn't. And it's so puzzling. How can that? It wasn't like he's suddenly like top 10 again and back in the mix of it. It's like he was, heads and shoulders above most people or the majority of the field. And then he was back at the back again. It's like, how? Yeah, there's people always say, oh yeah, Motegi or certain circuits are, a bit abnormal and they throw out strange results and whatever. But yes, to a certain extent. But if you're having a year like that, you can't suddenly then just win on a circuit that maybe you're pretty good at or the bike work. It just didn't make any sense to me. It was very, very peculiar, and really, really sad to see. But then on the flip side, Alex, how good was Alex Marquez?
Amazing.
And it's
we're writing him off
about
again
him
this year.
Yeah,
like everyone's still writing him off.
I listened to another podcast the other day. I'm sorry, I do cheat on you guys occasionally.
That's fine.
I can't remember who it was, but
That's
literally
good.
it was a half-hour roundup of 2026, and they mentioned Alex in the last minute when they were giving like the top 5 predictions, but he didn't get him, and he just gets completely forgotten about. And it must be really difficult, I think. No, it definitely wasn't. Although you guys have probably done the same. But it's just, it is crazy, isn't it? Because if Mark didn't exist last year, Alex would have been. That's all we would have been talking about. And he did such a consistently good. I know he had a couple of blips here and there, but Silverstone was a bit of a nightmare for both of the Marquez brothers, and they're very lucky that it was restarted and stuff, because I couldn't believe that. It was like, it all happened on the first lap, didn't it? It was just absolute madness. And Alex coming, wasn't it? Morbidelli. I mean, Morbidelli, geez, yeah. This has got to be his last year, surely. I mean,
yeah,
Jesus,
you'd think so.
You'd hope so.
He is just...
But then he'll come out and win like 3 races.
Yeah, he'll win the last race of the year. He'll win at Valencia and he'll get signed by like fucking Tech 3 or something.
No, Valentino will put him on for like another 10 years. 10-year contract.
Yeah. La Familia.
Yes. Yeah.
You're so right.
A strange one.
You're so right about Alex Marquez. It's just,
yeah.
I just don't, even watching the MotoGP press conference thing in Kuala Lumpur, and they're doing all the presentations, they only show him like a little snippet. Like even their own organization's written him off, and he's a genuine chance of winning that championship again. I still personally think Marquez is going to dominate, but if anyone else has got a genuine chance, and it looks like Ducati are on the improve, still got that gap ahead of everyone else. He's on a factory bike, like... God, I wouldn't be writing him off, even though we all, including us, still forget about him.
Yeah, and I think also a lot of credit needs to go to the Gresini team, because I think they're like Alex, they don't really get talked about enough, because you look at what Gresini have done over the years, not just last year or the year before with Mark, but Gresini and Frankie Carcelli. Those guys have just, they've extracted results out of so many riders and saved their careers. Look at Digi's career. I mean, Digi was nowhere. And what the turnaround they did with Digi, and even Bastianini, you look at the results a lot of these riders have got. And the Marquez, Mark was on that dud Ducati. What was it, 23 last year?
Yeah.
And okay, we know a lot of that was down to Mark, but also Frankie and the team Gresini. They've done such an incredible job compared to someone like VR46, who are just so up and down and sporadic. It's like the VR46 team, they need to find, and I know Rossi's coming back for most of this year, right, to oversee a lot of it. But I don't know. I just get the sense that they don't seem to have the right people within the team to extract the amount of performance they need to out of the bikes. And compared to someone like Gresini, who are consistently always good with the same or similar machinery, I think Gresini, we need to take our hats off to them. And I love their livery. I think their livery, everything they do is pretty cool. So it's
a great point you make comparing the pair with Gresini and VR46, because we were talking at the start of last year. Both Tom and I were talking about how VR46 had a very strong lineup, and one of them was on a full factory bike. We obviously know now the GP25 probably wasn't the most rideable motorcycle, but they definitely should have performed better than what they did last year. And this year it's there's a lot of pressure on those two riders to actually pull some results. But then Joe, talk to me about this. Okay, just say Digia and Franco Morbidelli has two shockers, and we got to put Italians on this motorcycle. Who are you putting on? What Italians coming through to go on this motorcycle? If Bagnaia, who's basically said, I'm still a full factory rider, leads me towards he's going to go to somewhere like an Aprilia, who are you putting on that bike?
Yeah, it's a good question, because at least I guess Frankie and Digi are going to pull out a couple of guaranteed results. I mean, you could only go one direction, go for the younger talent, but even then, it's like the Spanish are coming through, aren't they? I mean, that's always been the case. The Spanish have got so many good youngsters always coming through. We're always talking about the next Spanish hope, and there are so many. There's probably 4 or 5 you could pluck from Moto2 that would podium this year if you put them on the right bike. So yeah, good question. But maybe they need to look outside of the sort of Italian riders. I know it's an Italian team run by Valentino Rossi, but there's no way Pecco, unless Pecco doesn't get. I mean, I guess that's his fallback, is if he doesn't get a factory ride at Aprilia. Then, but I mean, that would be a hard pill for him to swallow, to go back to something like VR46. But yeah, you're right. But I think they should at least maybe see who performs the best this year. Keep someone like, if it's Digi, keep Digi, and then bring someone else in, a young new talent, regardless of their nationality. You got to go for speed, and then in the future, hopefully we'll have some more fast Italians come through. But again, for them, it's a business. In an ideal world, yes, have Italians on the bike. But I mean, look at the way Ducati factory team are going. Their top rider by a country mile at the moment's Marc, and it looks like they're going to get Pedro Acosta. So it's like they've had to go down that
too
route.
Spanish.
Couldn't get any more Spanish than those two, I reckon, as well.
They tell you.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting. Those two as teammates could really be heated.
Spice things up.
Yeah, exactly. Spice things up.
James, would you like paddock access to a MotoGP race this year?
I'd love that.
Well, On-Track Experiences gives you the MotoGP paddock access with MLab Racing, Joel Calso's new team.
Yep.
This isn't flashy VIP. This is the real deal. None of that fluffy stuff, James, okay? You'll get 3-day paddock access, team hospitality in Europe. You'll get a garage tour, rider meet and greet with photo opportunities, plus a service road pass for at least one session.
Mate, I love that. Weekend team guest packages are available for European and flyaway rounds. Or if you're going big, there are Platinum Season Pass for multiple races, Tom. It's your chance to support an Aussie in Moto3 and experience the MotoGP paddock from the inside and not just the grandstands.
Guys, jump on ontrackexperiences.com, register your interest for the 2026 MotoGP season.
Check them out.
Yeah, I think so. And it's, in a way, it's a shame that it hasn't happened years before, because let's face it, next year, Marc's going to be, 33, 34, whatever. He's going to be, at the back end of his prime, let's say that. Hopefully no more big injuries this year, because I think if he does have another big off this year, and so, he might, who knows what's going to happen, but he might just go, actually, let's call it time. And then we're going to have Pedro, who is really rising, and suddenly on a bike that's capable of winning. So in a way, it's a bit of a shame that that they're going to potentially meet on the same bike at different parts of their career. But saying that, we can't write off Marc. I mean, I did write him off coming back when he did that, the move from Honda. I just thought there's no way he's going to, there's no way he's going to rise back to the top after all of that hell. I watched that documentary on him. I'm sure you guys have as well. I can't remember what it was called, but that's when my respect really came for Marc. And if anyone listening or watching hasn't watched that, I can't remember what it's called, but I'm sure you'll find it. But it documents all of his injury misery and what he went through. And I must admit, watching him take the title last year, like I was tearing up on the sofa because I just, I felt so emotional for what he'd been through and what he'd managed to come out of the other side. And you could feel his emotions. You could see how emotional he was. And not just him, the support crew around him, even people like his brother that were there the whole way. And it's amazing to see him come through all of that at his sort of later part in his career and then rise straight to the top again and just show that he's just, so bloody good on a bike. So it's amazing.
It really is. He's sensational to watch and always been, incredible to watch. And then going back to drawing parallels of Valentino Rossi, it's not to the same as inspect, but it's he is like the sport at the moment, Marc Márquez. Like once he was out for Phillip Island and Sepang, like you could visibly notice the difference. The crowds were down. Well, they weren't down for Phillip Island, but you could just tell that there wasn't as much.
The racing missed a bit of zing.
Yeah, it lost a bit of zing.
We noticed that when we were in Sepang. I'm like, definitely. James, what are we missing here? There's something missing. It should be more exciting. And it's like Marquez in fourth with the whole race to go and him just slicing through the field and winning, where the greats of the sport, like the Schumachers, can dominate, but it's still exciting to watch. And I think that's a difference with, I don't know, the goods and the greats or...
Valentino was the same.
Yeah, Valentino was the same. But it's interesting going back to Valentino and, Marquez and Acosta. It is really a passing of the guard like it was when Marquez came on the scene 2013 and Valentino was...
Yep.
Was he 33 years old at the time? Yeah. He's older than you think at that time. Yeah. It was 14-year gap between the two. A lot of people forget that.
Yeah. Yep.
Just switching lanes a little bit, Joe. I'm fascinated of your YouTube story because you've grown something amazing, and I'm sure you've made a great career out of it as well. You just started yourself reviewing cars. Where did it all start from? I know you've been doing it for 15 years or something.
Yeah. So back I worked in the fashion industry when I was younger. Believe it or not, I'm not into fashion at all. I fell into it.
Great jumper you got on.
Well, yeah, exactly, yeah. And so I worked in that industry for years in central London. Looking back on it, I have some fond memories. It was a horrendous industry to work in, but when I was in it, I didn't necessarily see all the negative sides of it. I was a model booker in central London at an agency called Storm, which was one of the big ones. They founded Kate Moss and lots of other various like Cara Delevingne and lots of more recent supermodels. And I was a model booker on the women's board. So I used to book.
Sounds terrible.
I know. Yeah, get the violins out.
Yeah.
But it's funny because when I talk about it now, I look back and I think, wow, that was pretty cool.
Could be every boy's dream growing up.
But when I was in it, I suppose it's like so many jobs and industries. When you're in it and you're on the ground, and I'm there, whether I'm taking photos of girls in their underwear and all, I always had my professional head on. And actually to the point that, the office, there was about 35 people in the office and there was about 12 bookers. And out of the 12 bookers, they were either really powerful, mostly bitchy women, and three other guys who were all gay, right? And I was the only heterosexual straight guy in there. But all the gay guys and the women used to say that I was the gayest person in the office. I think looking back on it, I was kind of blinded by it all, and it was my job. And these girls that I used to look after, they were all products to me. They were, I was selling them to clients, and so all I knew about was, when it was their time in a month, or when they'd broken up with their boyfriend. And it was just problems after problems. So someone that on the face of it looked really attractive at the time, as soon as you got to know most of them, some of them were lovely, don't get me wrong, but most of them, it was just like headache, you know. It's like, oh no, what's she calling me for, you know? Like, so anyway, so that's I worked most of my sort of younger adult life in that industry. I then worked at ASOS.com. I know you guys get ASOS out there. Yeah. And I was actually sort of head of e-com model booking. We used to book 144 models a week.
Wow.
When I was there. This was like over 10 years ago now, 12, 13 years ago. 14 years ago when I left. But during all these years, I used to sit there at my 9 to 5, which was never 9 to 5 in that industry. It was always 8 till 8. Looking forward to the weekends so I could piss it up, and then suddenly Monday's here again. So my life was just going. But I used to sit there at my desk thinking, reading car magazines, just thinking, God, I wish I could get into the car industry, and I wish I could do something with cars. And I grew up in a family, I love my parents, but they're not into cars at all. My old man will buy a car, keep it for 10 years, and then buy another used piece of junk and just run it. He's not into cars. So I never really knew how to get into anything to do with the car industry, because so many things in life, okay, put education aside, it's who you know, right? And how you can sort of leverage that to get into whatever. But I didn't know anyone. And so in 2013, I bought an M135i when they were new, the F20 version. And at the time, it was a new sort of hot hatch that everyone was talking about. And so I used to be on these forums, and people would always be like, oh, do you know how this works? Or have you got that option on your car? So I used to do little videos and put them on the forum. And then I started doing bigger videos and putting them on YouTube because it was easier to share. So I'd literally be like, how do you activate launch control? This is how you activate launch control. Put a link on the forums. And then not long after that, I had a breakup, and I could have gone one or two ways. I could have really gone, I was with her for like 7 years, and it did break my heart, and I was in a bit of a bad way, but I suddenly turned my negativity and the fact I lived out of London in a small house that I used to share with her. Suddenly I started uploading these car videos onto YouTube, and I was getting love from, like you guys do in your comment section, I was getting love from these complete strangers from all over the world that were encouraging me to do more. But around that time, I'd set up a chauffeuring business. So I'd managed to get out of ASOS, and I'd set up a chauffeuring business that looked after predominantly supermodels and people within the fashion industry. So all of a sudden, I was behind the wheel of a car, and I was quite hands-on. So all of our top clients, I would either look after if I could, or be involved in some way. So suddenly I was behind the wheel of a car. So that was, to me, it was like a start, even though I was sitting in mostly London traffic, but I was behind the wheel of a car getting paid for it. But on the flip side of that, I had all this spare time because I'd be working like 1 week solid, doing like 16-hour days with a client that was in town. Then she would go to LA for a week. So suddenly I'd be at home for a week. So then I'd be filming bits on my M135i and various. I was getting this love online, and it was a hobby for years. For about 6-7 years, it was a hobby till COVID. And in 2019, at the end of 2019, I remember thinking to myself, wow, like the ad revenue alone will pay my bills. Maybe this would become a full-time thing. And I think anyone out there that's thinking about becoming a YouTuber or I think you've never got to look at it in the sense that, oh, I'm going to make loads of money, or I'm going to get loads of fame. And people you need to start as a hobby. You need to, like you guys you started this podcast because you love MotoGP, and then the other stuff will come. Like everything, you'll get sponsors and you'll succeed at what you're doing. But never look at it in the sense that it's like, oh, overnight I'm going to make loads of money, because I know a lot of the youngsters, that's the way they view the world today, and social media is to blame for that. They look at their phones and they're like, oh, this 20-year-old's got a £2 million supercar. It doesn't work like that in reality. So I just started filming videos of cars. 2019, I thought maybe. Then COVID arrived, and during COVID, obviously, suddenly my chauffeuring business virtually closed down overnight in March, and I couldn't do anything. And I got pathetic government grants. But thankfully YouTube at that point was going well, and because everyone was at home doing nothing, they suddenly turned to YouTube and Netflix and all the rest of it. So my audience grew quite a lot in 2020, and in 2021 I just thought, you know what, let's hand back my brand new car that I picked up in January 2020 that's done about 500 miles, my beautiful 7 Series, and hand back that to BMW and just focus fully on YouTube. Make it work. This is what you love. This is what you do. And it's what, been 5 years now. I've never looked back. It's as you both know, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and it's not that, you know, you show a 20-minute video and people don't realize the amount of work that goes into that 20-minute video and the amount of investment and money and stuff. But I love it, and you know, that's the last 5 years of my life have been fantastic, and I'm just very lucky that I get to do what I love. And I think as a result of that, I've been able to get into motorbikes and buy my own motorbike. You know, I've earned decent money over the last few years, and it's afforded me to do things that perhaps maybe I wouldn't have done. And yeah, I'm really fortunate. I think it's been awesome. As an older person now, I'm going on launches with all of these old school written journalists that I used to just absolutely admire, and read about and dream of maybe one day meeting. And now I'm sharing cars with them, or, you know, restaurants with them. And it's bizarre still to this day. And it's just lovely. As I've heard you guys talking about, I think when you see people online, you look at your followers and you look at your numbers, it's all great and the comments are great and all the rest of it. But it's when you're at a MotoGP race and a group of people or single person comes up to you guys and says, I love what you do. It's then when you go, shit, like this is cool. Not in like oh, look at me, I'm famous. Like, it's just like they're real people that appreciate what you do as a living and what you bring them and the happiness that you bring them. And I think that's what it is, you know, like you guys are becoming household names, especially within the MotoGP field. And it's just, it's a really nice feeling to be reassured by an actual human being coming up to you at a race to say, oh, I love your stuff, like, keep it up. Because yeah, and that keeps you going, motivates you.
Yeah. Couldn't have
Unbelievable story.
Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
Do you find, because we're obviously heavily involved in YouTube, and it's so interesting now to pick your brain about all this stuff. It's all about like consistency and building your like YouTube viewers. Like, is it just, obviously it takes time. There's not no real overnight success, but do you find it as just a consistency and then really showing the audience how genuine you are about it, not just trying to be fake, like fake it till you make it type of style, if you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think consistency. I mean, who knows? I mean, with YouTube, who knows what the algorithm?
Yeah,
you know, it seems to change all the time. I've always stayed, for me, in the way I film stuff and I come across, I've always, hopefully from day one, I've just been that excited grown adult that is now getting the opportunities that I'm getting, and I'm trying to share exactly what I'm driving with my audience. And I know, you know, you guys bring us along for your journeys, especially with your vlogs when you go to MotoGP races and stuff. And I think I've always tried to stay true to that. And I still get excited, you know, later on I'm picking up another press car and I'm still excited about that. And I'm also excited about sharing that car and that opportunity with my audience. So I think it's the consistency of trying to stay the same level-headed person. It doesn't matter what you do. You probably don't experience this, but with me, I've got a love. There's no secret that I do love BMWs. I've owned a lot of them. When I was about 4 years old, my auntie and uncle who live in the south of France, they had a E30 325i as a personal car back then, and I used to just love going on summer holidays just so that I could go and initially look at the car and sit in there as a passenger. Crazy. And then when I was 7 or 8. I used to drive it up and down their driveway as like a 7 or 8 year old. And so that's where my love for BMW came. But I love other brands. But if I say anything too positive about BMW, I'm suddenly definitely getting paid by BMW. And then if I say something positive about Audi, and the flip side is if you say anything negative, then oh, well, you're never getting a BMW again, or you're no one's going to lend you.
So,
yeah.
exactly. You can never, and I think that's the beauty of the internet. You can never make everyone happy. There's always people out there that are going to try and make your life miserable. But I think as I've got older, I just look at it in the sense that if people are really negative, there might be something going on in their life, and you just got to try and look at it that way. But it's very hard to avoid. You see a negative. You looked at the comments and there's 10 good ones and 1 negative, and I always focus on the negative. And it's just like, why are you doing that? Like, seriously. Yeah, it's human nature. Yeah. But it is really difficult to grow. And I think starting a channel these days, it's a struggle. And I can't. Yeah, I think I'm lucky that I started it all those years ago. And even before that, if I'd started 5 years previous, I'd probably have 1 million subs by now, because it was such a small community back then. Now there's a new car YouTuber, motoring YouTuber starting up every other week, it seems. So yeah, but it's graft. But I think like anything, it's graft. It's putting hard work in. And I never at school, I was useless at school, academically terrible. And I look back and I think most of the reason was that I just never really, if there was a subject, a MotoGP subject or an automotive subject, I think I would have got an A star in it, right? Yeah. And I think that's the way my brain works. If I love something or I like an interest in something, I would learn quite well, or quite quickly. But if it's something I'm not interested in, like most of the subjects at school, I just in one ear, straight out the other ear. Yeah, so yeah, but I've learned that over the years, and I think you just need to put graft in, and the rest will come.
Yeah, hard work. It's interesting. We started our brand actually as a clothing brand a few years ago, and talk about a fucking hard industry. Yeah, that's a hard industry. Talking about MotoGP was like the easy option, so we just went like that.
We pivoted.
We pivoted
hard.
Because
yeah, right.
And every time I probably second guess myself sometimes on the podcast and kind of, do I sound all right? And are we talking about the right stuff? Does it flow nicely? And then we flick on an episode, like episode 10, and I watch that and I go, no, we're doing a fucking good job.
Yeah, you guys in the early days, I mean, I loved it, but I just think some of the stuff you said, and I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe that. But that was part of the attraction. It was like some of the stuff you said. I mean, there was, and obviously that's the thing, I suppose, as you become bigger and let's say not more commercial, but a more prominent brand, I guess you've got to tone some of that down. But then you got your Patreon. I'm not a patron. I should be a Patreon because I'm not listening to your Patreon. But I can't imagine what you, because usually when you guys are getting to quite a controversial subject and then you go, oh well, we'll continue that on our Patreon channel. It's like, oh my God, what the hell did they say on there?
Well, I think the first 20 episodes, I had a steel bowl about yay big full of ice and fucking 10 beers.
We used to get pissed at.
Yeah,
it's like, who the fuck would want to listen to this? But it's evolved from there. You gotta start somewhere, and James has been big on this with consistency on especially on Instagram, on Facebook. You got to be there all the time. You got to be putting new content out, because if you just stay stagnant or you do it once a week, people are just going to lose interest and go to the next thing. So it is a crazy world, the whole social media aspect. And but yeah, I mean, just looking at your success, it's a massive inspiration. I mean, it's amazing. You've come from a passion project into a career, and that's something obviously we've been striving to do. So
exactly, like we've got a lot of inspiration off your channel and seeing yourself succeed, and so good seeing other people succeed. And like Tom and I still work 9 to 5s, but like we make it no secret that we want to do this as like a full-time gig, and I feel like we've come in at the right time. But it's not actually that many MotoGP dedicated podcasts or that do it really well at the same time. So it is still a niche field and bubbling at the surface. So it's very interesting talking to yourself and someone who's, gone to the other side, how the process of doing it and the outlook you have.
Yep. No, well, it's great. I mean, you guys, you keep doing what you're doing, and it's going to be, I think in years to come, you'll look back on this and be like, wow, this is cool. And doing it as a full-time, because you both, so Tom, you work at a car dealership?
Yeah, I'm in the automotive industry. I sell the best brand in the world, Joe, Kia. number one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Number one
yeah.
Korean motor car. No, I've been selling cars for since I was graduated high school, and I wanted to make it as I wanted a year off school, and I thought, I like cars, I'll work and sell them, and I haven't I just haven't changed. I haven't done anything else, and then we've obviously started this a few years ago, and it's been a real sort of great thing for me, because when you do the same thing day in, day out, but you've got a hobby or something to look forward to, and in life, I mean, it's a great balance, and I love it. But as James said, it is challenging. To put out an hour podcast, people think we just, sit here, talk, and that's it. But there's just so much to do with it, and there's so much to editing and all the things we have to do to make the channel grow. It's a big job, but I mean, we wouldn't change it for the world. So,
no, and you've had some mega guests on. Really, I think. Gavin is just Gavin Emmett's an absolute legend, isn't he? Yeah. What a nice bloke. And you've had so many cool guests. And I hope. So, what happened to all of the interviews that you did with like Joe and Mia and
Dorna? We got an email, Philip Holland, after LCR tagged us in one of their
a bit of a cease and assist.
Yeah, basically, like they CC'd all the big dogs of Dorna and said, you just can't film podcasts. And some teams, like, no one really knows. It's such a grey area, and we don't really know why. It's we reading in between the lines, Tom, you might be able to test this, is we don't have commercial rights through like TNT or the Dorna World Feed or Dazan or whatever it is. But then we're also thinking, why are they wasting their time interviewing us, or us interviewing them, if we can't post it? Because we can't do it as an audio only. We can't even do it as we tried written.
A written podcast.
We'll just
what are the transcripts?
Sign language.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I mean, obviously TNT and Dorna themselves. Oh, TNT is probably the
Dazan.
They pay all this money to have the rights, and they want access to the riders at all times. They want them to be the only interviews, and us two jocks from Melbourne coming in and trying to interview them obviously didn't go down too well. So we're hoping to have that change in the future. We're in talks at the moment, but we'll see what happens. We had four great podcasts. Please.
We had Raul Fernandez, Zarco, me, and Bastianini.
So and it was amazing for us. I mean, sitting in there, sitting with them it was 20 minutes, 25 minutes, but like, you could tell them when we first walked in and they had their full walls up to at the end, joking and laughing and carrying on and being like, oh, this is not a normal interview. This is a nice, relaxed podcast. It was an amazing experience, but we'll get them out one day.
Yeah. We just can't piss off Dorna.
Actually, Joey, if you subscribe to the Patreon, they're on there.
Oh, okay. Well, I definitely will after this. I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, why am I not subscribed? Do I admit that I'm not subscribed? But it's funny because that kind of goes back to when we were talking earlier on about why the sport isn't growing. And it's really weird. So when I go to like Silverstone with Michelin as a guest, I don't know what they pay to get the VIP treatment and all the rest of it. But yet we're not allowed to film like anything. Well, if we're going by the book, we're not allowed to film anything on track. Nothing. I'm not allowed to film a bike going past.
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
I will post the occasional thing. Of course I will. Yep. But it's just like, how is that taking? And don't get me wrong, I love TNT. I love all the presenters. Like I speak to Sylvain all the time. What a legend he is. And if you're not aware, Sylvain's running the marathon this year in his leathers, absolute madman. And he's raising a lot of money. So head over to his Instagram. You'll find it in his profile. But Susie Perry, they're just brilliant. But and I'm sure it's obviously got nothing to do with those guys on the ground. But you just look at it and you're like, how is a fan like myself or some of these people they invite? They've got like millions of followers, and they're not allowed to post like a bike launching or whatever if they're going by the book. But how's that? That's not stealing anything away from TNT. Like I'm not gonna see that on Instagram and go, oh right, well I'm not gonna bother watching a race now because I've seen Pedro Acosta go past the start finish straight at Silverstone. All that's doing is getting more eyes on the sport and getting those. Like, why invite these people in the first place if they're not allowed to actually share their experience properly And it's the same with F1. I mean, I get the rights, I understand all of that, but they're not sitting there for 45 minutes filming the entire race and broadcasting it on their phone. They're
And who
showing you
wants to watch that
little
anyway?
snippet of what.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it.
What are they going to use that for? It's crazy.
Yeah. That mindset is just mad. It's like, just, let the leashes off, let people film what they want to film, and including you got, like, it's just, getting it out there, getting more and more of it out there. And I think they need to really lift some of the red tape and allow that to happen.
Exactly. And like, it's so backwards. And some of the teams like have been so hospitable as well. Like Aprilia, they were amazing.
Yeah.
Pramac were
LCR are good.
Yeah, LCR, like, amazing people to deal with. So it's obviously just the head of, all these guys that run it. Like, and we want nothing more than more eyeballs in the sport. It's not like we're trying to, if they want to give us some of their $300 million deal into our bank accounts, no worries. But like, it's not like we're trying to do that at all. Like, we're just trying to put out good content that's also just a little bit different. Like, it's not and when we're interviewing these guys, we're not interviewing them saying, what's your favorite corner, or how do you feel in practice one, or what do you feel going to this weekend? We're asking them like, we're talking about golf with Zarco, or talking about food or fitness, or, Bastianini's dog. Like, we find it more interesting talking to them almost off the bike, because they're more interested almost in talking about that anyway, because they're talking about bikes from Thursday till Sunday, so it's
of course
a lot more, there's only so many times you can ask what's it like riding a MotoGP bike, and it all kind of gets very similar. But then asking the questions of what they like doing on their off season, or what makes them tick, because they're all pretty crazy. You'd be pretty crazy to ride a bike at 350 k's an hour. So seeing that side of that personality, which we don't see because they don't really televise that at all, is what's so interesting for us. And then that's why it's so interesting talking to guys like ex-riders like Chris Vermeulen, or these guys who have got such an insight and aren't then shackled to sponsors, so they can really say what they want to say, and it opens it up again. So you just kind of got to be a bit tricky in how you talk to these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the Vermeulen episodes are brilliant as well. I met another guy I met a couple of years ago at Silverstone. He was walking through there with his missus, and just a lovely bloke, just a normal bloke. Like, it's like
such a nice
go
guy.
in the pub, have a beer with you.
Yeah,
he comes across as such a chilled, lovely bloke. So yeah, it's great. The insights, as you say, you listen in as a fan. You listen into everything they say, because even though Chris might be like, "Oh, well, I've been out of it for a few years," it's like a lot, and also, they probably hear a lot of stuff before we do, but it's just great hearing their insights, because it wasn't so long ago that he was on the bike, up front of the field, and brilliant, really cool. Can I ask you what? Sorry.
Yeah, you go.
No. I was just going to ask you I wanted to know your predictions for. I know you've kind of talked about it, but what if you had to give a top 3 prediction for 2026? Who would it be?
It's hard. It's I really had Martin back for me. I was really feeling that, and then obviously this latest setback and missing more testing. The team is just so behind Bezecchi. I think we both agree on Marquez. I think we're still going to Marc Márquez. I think still going to dominate the championship. Isn't going to be as close as is it going to be as wide as last year? I don't think so. I think there'll be some more wins from Aprilia. I think Honda is going to have maybe a couple of wins this year, possibly. Yamaha out the back, we know that. KTM's the dark horse for me. Can they produce a bike the last year before the new regs? Are they really going to spend the money on changing that bike? I don't think so. So that's going to be the hard thing for Acosta. I think similar to last year, I think you'll see Marquez, Bez, and Alex Marquez for me, the top 3. Not to give anything away from our next week prediction show, but
sorry.
And it'll probably change. It'll probably change anyway.
I was going to say.
In my top 3, it's going to be like Bez, Mark, Acosta, Alex, somewhere in there. Maybe I'll throw a
Is-
card in there.
He's Switzerland over here, sitting on the fence.
That's why I'm
Yeah.
always right,
What about you, Joe?
Yeah,
Give us the top three.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna say Mark, unless he has another accident.
Good point. Great
I
point.
hope he doesn't.
Yeah, great point. Yep.
And because I think he'll be maybe riding a little bit, a bit conservatively as a result of what's happened again. So, and I think because of that, he might be a little, fraction off his pace, and therefore allowing others to sort of get on top. I mean, Bez has got to be up there, number one, because I think we've all seen now he's a world-class top-level rider. He's got the right attitude, and he's got the whole team behind him. And that Aprilia at the end of last year, I mean, wow. Look at the Marquez incident that he had. It was like Mark was standing still through that corner. But I really hope that Pecco, I really want to see Pecco back up there. And I really think that, if he gets a good result in early, that will give him confidence. But then I'm going off now. I've got like 7, and then obviously we've got Alex again, who consistently I think is going to be up there. But you said dark horse is KTM. Well, I think the dark horse is Maverick Vinales within KTM, because I think Maverick's another rider that for the last 5 or 6 years, I've just, every time like a new manufacturer signed him, or whether it's the same man, I've always just been like, oh man, why? Just get rid of it. But then he will do something and you're just like, the guy's got so much talent. But I think it's all up here with him. That it's the mental state that lets Mav down. But obviously now he's got Cheeseburger as his mentor. And I know initially it was a bit of a joke, and it's so cheesy, as I've heard you guys talk about so many times. Yeah. But actually there's it's almost exactly what Mav has needed.
Totally agree.
Cheeseburger, he just always looked miserable in the paddock. He looked miserable on the bike. He looked miserable after wins. But he was just such a headstrong person. I think he changed his number at one point, didn't he? Because he thought the number, and I know Mav did that as well. They changed their numbers because it was like, oh, it must be the number that's giving me. So it's all these things going. So in a way, and you look at just before Mav injured himself, not middle of last year, he was on fire at that point, and he was only going forwards, quite literally, in every race, and where everyone else on the KTM, including Pedro, were nowhere. And then it was literally the next race or two where the likes of Pedro suddenly found this setup, that allowed him to go forward. And I think a lot of that was, it's quickly forgotten that Mav was the person who actually took KTM to a certain point at the middle of last year. And I think if he can continue like that, and it's one of the first seasons where Mav's always won pre-season testing, hasn't he? It's always been like, and he's won pre-season testing, so he's going to come 12th in the first race. And then he does. And so this year he's not been top of testing, so maybe it's going to be the other way around. But let's see. I think Mav's going to be... he's the one I've got my eye on, at least for the start of the season, to see what he can do. Because I think the talent, and I remember speaking to a few riders over the years, and a lot of them have always said, that boy's got so much talent, but he just he can't, he's not headstrong enough. And as a result, he can never display it. And sometimes we'll see little glimpses of it, but let's see. And I kind of want him to do, again, a few years ago, I was like, I'll just get him out of the championship. But it would be nice to see him win. And I'm sure Cheeseburger will be up there on the podium with him.
Yeah.
He'll be the one holding that trophy.
It's just meme city. It's just meme city. It's just
It's very funny. All the photos and the turtleneck is just the greatest. But he's training Mav like how senior Cheeseburger was training Lorenzo. Real tight, twisty stuff.
Yep.
On like a little Gixxer 600 or whatever it is, but very, very similar stuff what he was doing. So credit to Maverick Vinales. He's really gone a different lane and trying this, and then obviously,
Yep.
going down the route of being with Lorenzo is like you're kind of out on show because Lorenzo loves showing off. So then you have to unfortunately kind of be put in that lane as well. But he's he's accepted it and he's embraced it, and he's been nothing but really positive, realistically through
Yep.
preseason. So I really hope Mav has a big season, and then is fighting for race wins consistently.
This is my prediction. He's gonna win a race in the first half of the season, and then the relationship's gonna fucking explode.
Oh, no.
Just gonna be like fucking odd, like Donkey Kong.
There'll be a new rider signing. It'll be Lorenzo taking his seat.
Yeah. Lorenzo will come out. Lorenzo comes out, takes full credit for the win. It's just, it's just gonna be like, and then it's gonna be amazing. But that's another aspect of this year that's so exciting. I mean, there's so many fucking talking points, So crazy.
Yeah.
Do you think going into the new regs next year? Obviously, we've been talking about that a lot. Who do you have a prediction of what manufacturer is really going to take it by the balls?
Into 27?
Yeah.
It's really hard to say, isn't it? I mean, I think, well, I mean, you look at KTM and they've been testing that 850 for 6 months already, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we first, so I think for someone like KTM, who, let's face it, they got to a level relatively quickly, but then haven't really risen above it and have sort of fluctuated and not really shown any progression. I think this is KTM's one and only big opportunity. So I think they'll be throwing the kitchen sink at everything for that 850. So I think that's going to be on the pace that KTM. You could never count out Ducati, although I think the only caveat with Ducati is they've had so many issues over the last 12 months, and I'm sure they'll continue to have this year with what the current bike is, and they've spent so much time changing that 24.165 to 25.7 to, we don't know what it is. So I think I hope they haven't lost focus on the 27 bike, but at the same time, I don't want them to go into the 27 completely dominant again. But the other dark horse for me, well, it's not really a dark horse, is Honda. And I think just because of their money, because of the progress they've shown since Marc's got off the bike, because as I think a lot of people said at the time, although Marc is undoubtedly the best rider of sort of the current era, it seems like he's not the best at developing bikes because he's so good at riding. He can ride anything, right? I mean, look at the Honda. So that Honda never really got any faster, or at least was very unrideable for most people. But Marc could still wrestle it and win championships on it. So, but I think since he's left, Honda they've clearly put more money and time into the project, but they've also listened to maybe better riders or riders that aren't so gifted like Marquez, and actually improve the bike in the right directions that the majority of riders would need. And I think we're seeing that now, aren't we, with the current Honda? It just, even the back end of last year, it was great to see it on pace. And I think with all their money as well, like Honda have got so much resources that I think it'll be hard to bet against Honda at least being right up there. If not being the sort of, depends on who they have, the riders. I mean, it looks like Quartararo is going to be on there, and I kind of hope for his sake that at least he does have one good year next year, because he's been through a lot with Yamaha. I mean, well, he's also earned a lot, so I haven't got that much sympathy for him in that sense. But also, I think you can see it. It's just like, it's a bit like the Marquez, jumping off the factory Honda and going to Gresini. Like he's suddenly not being paid anywhere near as much, if anything at all. But for Marc at that point, it was like, I just want to be back to my winning ways. I want to believe in myself that I've still got the ability to win. And I think that's what Fabio's probably at now. He's like, I've shown you that I can do the most ridiculous things on that Yamaha. And he should have won at Silverstone last year. That was just really unfortunate. But the Yamaha just is not up to the job. And I think someone we haven't even talked about in this sort of hour is Top Rack. I think Toprak is, again, I met him. I've spoken to him a few times on social media. I met him at Donington Park last year. He's just such a likable guy, and he is super talented. And watching him in real life, watching him on TV and stuff, you could see the talent and the results. But when I actually saw him on track with my own eyes, compared to everyone else in the World Superbike paddock, you could just see. I mean, the guy's he is just ridiculously talented. And I don't think he's going to do that many amazing things this year because that Yamaha is just not up to the job. But we can't forget what he did on that BMW, which prior to him stepping on it was nowhere in World Superbikes. And Van der Mark's not a slow rider. He was, always right up there, but he couldn't pull a result out of that. No one could. Anyone that jumped on that BMW, it almost ended their career over the last few years. But yet Toprak, from suddenly, boom, he's winning. And it's like to have that kind of, that's a Marc Márquez thing to do, jump on a bike that's very average. And so I really hope that Toprak gets the opportunity to ride something that is competitive, because he's also not getting any younger. What's he, 30, 31? Yeah. He hasn't got many years to sort of prove himself in MotoGP. And I really hope that Yamaha can provide him with some kind of package in 27 that can show off on the, am I allowed to say it, Pirelli tyres as well. But yeah, so that's a big negative for me. It's like when we go to 27 and it's like, oh, no more invites from Michelin. What am I going to do? But yeah, I guess that's the other thing. But I honestly don't think the tyres, I think it's the same for everyone. And let's face it, by the time we go to Pirelli's, Toprak's going to have had a year of running Michelin's behind him. So it's not like he's going to be head and shoulders above just because he knows the Pirelli tyre. Also, that Pirelli tyre is surely going to be somewhat different to the Pirelli tyre that he was on in World Supers. It's not going to be the same tyre. It's going to be a new tyre. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I feel like I've just rambled and not given any answers. But
that's what it's all about.
We enjoy it. It's a great, mate. I really want to ask you, and we're kind of leading into this anyway, your thoughts on World Superbikes. Obviously, we've spoken about Toprak, and he came from there. We've spoken about World Superbikes a lot, and it's coming up in Phillip Island next couple of weeks, which will be going down. What do you make of that championship as a fan? Because it's obviously owned by Dorna now, and it seems like it's quite stagnant. Is there a place in motorcycle racing for World Superbikes in the future?
Well, I think there should be. For us die-hard motorbike lovers, it's fantastic. There is, World Superbikes, but again, they need to do a hell of a lot of work. And I think the last couple of years, at least over here, and what I've seen in Europe, it seems to have grown. But I think a lot of that is the Toprak element. Going back to Donington Park, half of the crowd, there was Turkish flags everywhere. It was. He had the whole of Turkey behind him, and they would travel. So losing a megastar like Toprak, just as I was seeing it growing, at least in what I'd seen, it's hard because in a way it's looked at as a second tier racing, isn't it? It's almost like Moto2 or, and it's I don't know what the answer is to that because I really want World Superbikes to do well. Whether I know there's talk of it. Sort of them doing double weekends with MotoGP and World Superbikes, and I don't know. It's a difficult one. I certainly enjoy watching it. I think it's great that there's a lot of ex-MotoGP riders in there now, but it's not like they're massive. Like Miguel Oliveira. It's not like he's got a huge global following. No offense to him, but it's not like he's going to bring millions of people over to World Superbikes. But yeah, I don't know. What's your opinion on it? I mean, what's the difference? Because obviously, I've never been to over here. We have World Superbikes at Donington. We have MotoGP at Silverstone, at least in recent years. What's the difference at Phillip Island, like World Supers compared to MotoGP?
It's a lot more laid back World Superbikes, and for the purists always love. They say they love going to Superbikes more, but everyone still ends up going to MotoGP and will get triple the crowd easier. Like like just as a commercial standpoint for World Superbikes in Australia, like there's not much going on. There's no real expos. Manufacturers aren't really there. Like it is not a huge event. It's cool that you can ride your bike around the track and everything like that. So it's great for the purist, but and you can get to the back of the pits if you buy a 3-day pass, where MotoGP's are a lot more corporate. But
just on that as well, you mentioned that before, Joe. World Superbikes do an amazing effort in the back of the pits.
Yes.
Like they've got, Michael Hill on commentary, which he's incredible. Yes. We all know him. He's amazing. Yep. Big screen, food trucks, drinks. Everyone's like on the beers. It's awesome. It's in summer for us in Australia. So it's awesome. But it wouldn't work for MotoGP because it's just, as you said, Marc Márquez wouldn't want 50,000 people in the back of the paddock.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. Sorry.
But it makes perfect sense. Yeah. But I don't like. We're the only race outside of Europe, so it's a European championship.
Like, how do they not go to Sepang? How do they not go to Motegi in Indonesia,
United States?
Like, it's amazing that those Asian countries,
just Japan.
Those Asian countries, everything's bikes. You go through any of those countries. I mean, majority of people have a bike, two wheels.
It's World Superbikes, isn't it? It's not. It's not European plus Australia. I mean, you guys are Europeans anyway.
True.
But it's like, I had thought about that in the past, and it is like, why do they not expand? As you say, you go to any of these Asian countries, and I mean, Australia is very much like here in our motorbike scene in general is enthusiasts mostly. There's hardly anyone commuting to work on their motorbike, mostly because the weather's pretty miserable here. But it's not really even in London, you get a few people on mopeds and stuff. But I lived in India in 2007 for about 6 months. And there are millions and millions of motorbikes there, just like there are in Thailand or Malaysia, anywhere. They're obsessed with two wheels. Even if it is a moped, they're far more relevant audience. So why... And you look at the World Superbike manufacturers, and again, they've got several Japanese manufacturers in there. Why are they not doing it? Why have they not got around in Japan? It's almost weird that you got these factory teams, but they don't stipulate. They almost need to stand up and go, well, we need some of this action in Japan or in Asia at least, where our big markets are, where we sell bikes, not necessarily in the UK. Do you know what I mean? It's like that side of it seems mad. It's frustrating, and maybe that's the answer. Start doing it more in spread it further abroad and not just utilizing the European rounds. Because
Well, bloody hell! How good was that, James?
Yeah,
Joe, Achilles, part one. We're gonna have him on throughout the year. You have to.
Yeah, and then we need to get his takes. Not takes.
Oh, it's people are gonna pay. You need to start your own Patreon.
First thing I do when I finish this call with you guys.
It's all good. Joe, amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. It was a real treat for us. And again, we will have you on during the year. We want you to have you on, so we'll make this a regular occurrence because it was so much fun. So thank you. Really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure, guys. And like I said at the start, I'm a big fan of what you do, and I can't wait to see where it all goes, and can't wait to watch you grow throughout this year, and hopefully actually meet you guys, give you a big hug, and sink a couple of beers, maybe in Valencia, if not before.
That sounds amazing.
That sounds amazing.
Otherwise, we'll be in your spare bedroom and still stand.
Mate. No, but I mean that honestly, that'd be awesome. It'd be so cool to have you guys here. So anytime.
Yeah, we have to fly over to England.
Yeah, well, I might do a drunk text to the travel agent now.
Do it! I dare you.
All right, we'll push stop record now, Joe, and just give us 1 sec. We'll have a couple chats after the pod. So thanks so much.
Cheers, Joe.
No worries.